What are you looking for as you're coaching our team and things that you've learned in that process?
Usually I look for if the communications team member were able to capture really the concern of the caller, question behind question.
A offsite team work ethic, which is all about being humble, hungry, and smart, so they're ready to go after it so we can take care of other customers as well too.
In our culture, it's one of our pride that we are empathetic. So we love to care for our customers.
How cool that we have the opportunity to talk to people. Hey, good day and welcome to the Offsite Team podcast. I'm here with my good friend April, and today we have a special guest, CJ. How are the two of you guys doing today?
Good. Been busy?
It's been very busy, and it's one of those things, even though we're not on the same continent, we follow each other on Facebook and Instagram, and it's like you guys are family just a continent away, which is always fun. But today we're going to talk about running a offsite call center. So our main business is based in the United States. I would say not all of the people who answer our phone calls, but I would say 5 of 6 or 6 of 7, they're all based in the Philippines. And we can talk into what that looks like for a very efficient incoming call experience. And most people know what this looks like. You'll see it like at Apple, if you call Apple, because we were just talking about the new iPhone 16 before the podcast started. But you'll have a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3 phone call experience. And we've been able to create something like this that has really benefited not only our company, but has benefited our customers, which has just been awesome. So when you think of now, so before you came to work for Howard's, April, you and I think CJ, did you work at a call center as well too before coming to Howard's, an offsite team?
I did
You
for
did.
like 6 years.
So, okay, so you worked in another call center for 6 years. And I want to just hear, CJ, so you were our call center team lead. We don't have managers here. I don't like calling it managers, but if we were like anyone else, you'd be our call center manager, but you were our call center lead. Tell me your worst experience ever, politically correct, of course, working in a call center. What went wrong?
Working in a call center, it doesn't matter if you're sick or you're not feeling well. You are required to report to work. And if you just have like a slight fever, your team lead or your manager will call you, hey, show up to work, just take your medications and work. That's the worst for me.
Oh, it's almost like they didn't even treat you like you were a human being, was it?
Exactly.
But we do not do that. We offer sick time. We offer paid sick time. We have vacation. Everyone on the offsite team gets it. We encourage them to take it ahead of time or schedule it ahead of time. April, what's yours?
Mine is definitely the traffic. And at the same time, it was actually not personal, but one of my close colleague back when I was working at a call center. So her grandmother passed away, but she wasn't allowed to take a leave during that time. So it was really, I was like, if it's me, I would really be sad about it.
I can see that you want to grieve with your family. And I said, I saw you too, CJ, when April was telling that story, you're like, yeah, did you notice that happens sometimes too at other call centers?
Yes.
What we've tried to do in the business term for this is redundancy. And I can kind of assume, like when we started our original medical supply, it was just me and one other team member. And so when it was just me before we even had the offsite team, I always carried my cell phone everywhere I went because that's all you had. If I was at a funeral, I would have at least my cell phone with me. Going to church, I was always on call because that's kind of what it's like starting a company. The beauty of having an offsite team is you guys can help back us up, but also because hiring offsite team members in the Philippines is very affordable, we can hire more than exactly what we can hire more and build in some redundancy so you guys can have quality of life as well too. And that's vitally important in hiring offsite team members. And even working with, we were just onboarding a new client and they didn't have enough work for a full-time team member. So what we agreed to do was basically split them with another organization who did not also have enough. So essentially we were able to take one team member and split them out amongst 2 companies. But what this does is it already takes a very affordable service and splits it in 2. So this is kind of one of the fun things about working with larger organizations, can allow for quality of life for people who live in the Philippines, as well as quality of life for us, and it drops our costs down. So when answering phone calls, what are some of the things that you've learned? Just, hey, this is what makes a good call when a engaging customer is calling in, because hopefully they want to buy something. What do we want to do, in handling those phone calls? What's some secret sauce that we can pass on to our listeners today?
Well, as a senior team member of communications, I've been listening to phone calls for our team members, and two things. You just have to make them feel heard and be honest with them. Really, that's for me.
And you're really good at that. So not only do you answer phone calls, but as you lead our team, you're coaching all of the team members. And we have a super secret form, 10 questions, but all of our team members know you're grading all of the phone calls on 10 questions, because customers calling in, they want to have their question answered, but they also want to be heard. So what are some things, let's say someone's calling in with a complaint. How can we teach people who call us and say, hey, I have a complaint about this widget or this product, or my bill's not what I think it should be? How do we let the customer know that they've been heard?
For me, I'd say you have to be empathetic and patient, because that's really helpful, especially when you're dealing with frustrated clients over the phone.
And one of the things people, you know this, but I'm going to say this as well too. I have found it helpful to articulate back to the customer calling in. So you're calling to me about your bill, and it sounds like you're frustrated about this. You have to be a little careful, because sometimes it'll just go into a vent session all the way out into left field. But they want to know that they've been heard, because I know when I have talked to call centers, and this will be one of the big things that Americans will have problems with. You call a call center, you tell them, I have a problem, my widget does not work. And they're like, so you're calling to add a new phone service line? You're like, no. And it goes back and forth. And this is where things go really crazy. So CJ, how do you make sure that when people call in, that our team is responding appropriately so the customer doesn't get even more angry?
Basically, when I'm coaching them, listening to their phone calls, I always make sure to ask them to acknowledge and repeat back, not to the point that they're gonna parrot the patient, of course. If it's straightforward and easy to understand, they do not really need to repeat it back word by word. Just an acknowledgement that, hey, I've heard you, and this is what you're calling for, and proceed in pulling up an account, and not pull up an account and then just proceed with asking questions again, because that's not good.
No, it's not good. And that's where someone will get even more and more frustrated. Now, we're in the medical field, so it'd be one thing if someone's calling, let's say Netflix or some other company, and you have a very generalized question. We are working with people who have unfortunately had a death in the family, or not usually a death, because then it's for pickup purposes, but they're trying to get something that sometimes can be a life or death, home oxygen, a CPAP machine. So they're tired, they're cranky because they don't have this item yet. And we all know, working with insurance companies do not make our lives easier. If it was going to be that easy, it would be a simple prescription and let's get this thing through. And no, insurance companies today, as we've talked about in previous episodes, they're using artificial intelligence to do whatever they can to deny those insurance claims. So now we have those customers calling us back in saying, hey, this should have been approved. And I agree with those customers. Yes, your CPAP machines should have been approved. So April, when customers call in like that, what are some things that the Offsite team can do that really can help other companies out, to help them out?
Well, I am actually proud to say that in our culture, it's one of our pride that we are empathetic.
Yes, you
So,
are.
so we love to care for our customers, even though they're frustrated. What we always tell them, CJ and I, is that you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to understand, because if they do not have any problem, they won't be calling you.
No, they wouldn't.
And
actually, if they didn't call you, you wouldn't have a job.
exactly.
I mean, really look at it that way. I'm like, thank goodness they're calling
Right.
me, because if not, I would have to go work for those evil call centers where they won't give me time off to go to my grandmother's funeral. I mean, how cool that we have the opportunity to talk to people. One of the things we do We have a set amount of time for phone calls. So just know if you do hire one of our offsite team members and is answering phone calls, we have very specific instructions. We expect this phone call to last blank amount of minutes. And we have the template behind us where we grade, we can't be talking to every single customer for 50 minutes on the phone. That's not acceptable. If you call us, I'll tell you exactly what that looks like, because we need to go through and answer phone calls as they come. It is our goal to answer a specific amount of phone calls within 60 seconds before it goes to our little call queue that it has, because that's one of the things that distinguishes our company. Because if we don't answer the phone, let's be honest, as great as I think our company is, they're going to go to another company down the street. And this is one of those things, small mom and pop DMEs, respiratory companies, rehab companies listening to this podcast, if we cannot pick the phone up, they're going to go to your competitor. And we don't want that to happen. How great is it to have, hey, CJ might not be able to know the ins and outs of complex group 3 wheelchair questions, but you can answer the phone. You can read the notes that we have in Brightree, which is our CRM. We can see hey, we're waiting on Dr. Smith for this, and this is the last time we checked on it. We can do a lot of those. And then even let's say it's a really complex question, you then will call over to our United States team member who might be in the rehab department and be able to triage, hey, what I really need to know, we're waiting on the ATP, or we're waiting on the detailed product description to get this power wheelchair authorized. But in the old days, someone might have to wait for a couple of days for that phone call to come back. They get a live person immediately. And that a lot of times we have found has really kept our customer in our CRM, which is Brightree, waiting, and we're working on them. And one of the things, because we have so many offsite team members who are on the communications team, sometimes, as we know, we send out a lot of pre-authorizations to insurance companies. They don't get back to us. Instead of saying nothing, what we do is we proactively call the insurance company. We'll find out what's going on, and then we proactively call the patient saying, hey, patient 12345, we need to let you know we've called the insurance company. They have not heard back from us yet, but I need to know I need to let you know we are checking on this for you. Because the biggest source of disappointment, I would say, in the United States and the Philippines is unmet expectations. When you think one thing's going to happen and it doesn't, by having a communications team where we have more people working on that claim. And the whole goal is to get through and get that piece of equipment in the people's house so we can help them out. Now, let's just say theoretically, someone from a company in the United States hires an offsite team member. And so now we're working, let's say someone listening to this podcast has never worked with someone in another country. What would you want them to know, CJ?
We value integrity so much. And definitely, if you guys haven't hired any remote workers before, or specifically from the Philippines, we are hardworking people who even works even our 6 day, even if we are not feeling well. We have strong work ethics, and we take pride in making sure that we do our job well, because this is our livelihood, and this is where we get money to support our family.
Yeah, it truly is your livelihood. And not only are they helping individuals out, you use this to help your family out, don't you? How does that feel?
Well, it feels reassuring, and it actually, I feel really proud of myself. I'm gonna speak like for myself here, because I've been through a lot. I've been in a call center. I've work from home setup before coming here to Howard's, to Offsite. And this is the first time that I'm able to really invest in things and able to buy things for my family. And I'm happy with my progress. And thank you so much.
Well, and you're just knocking it out of the park, by the way. So you're like, I'd like to think we all have all amazing team members, but you're like the cream of the crop. But part of it is you work really, really hard because you care so much, which is really, really neat. And so, and you care because, if anything, I've had to probably tell, I'm not going to go into details. I'm like, CJ, you're being too hard on yourself. It's not the end of the world, because you so want to take care of everyone. And I'm like, I've told April this before. I'm like, can we bring some of that back to the United States, please? Can we have like a little bit of CJ, I need you to relax a little bit sometimes. and maybe bottle it up, put it in a package, and send that to the United States, because we've had some other team members. I'm like, can you care a little bit more, please? But it's really encouraging, because that's really what it is. When we have people calling us, they need something, and you guys go and work really, really hard. Talk to me without giving out like our super secret checklist that we have to make sure that we are always improving by answering phone calls. CJ, tell me one or two things as you're grading phone calls. What are you looking for as you're coaching our team, and some things that you've learned in that process?
Two things, just active listening
Mm-hmm.
and communications, how they
Mm-hmm.
communicate well to the patient.
So how do you, if we're going to coach someone on active listening, what does that look like?
Usually I look for if the patient or if the communications team member were able to capture really the concern of the caller.
Mm-hmm.
Question behind question. So there are patients who will call, I'm calling for this, and really that's not their concern. It's more deeper than that. So I usually look for keys like if the representative were able to ask the right question, the right probing question, because I usually mark down a call. There are calls that if you just listen to it at one go, it's good. But if you pay close attention to how they ask question, to how the patient responded, you will definitely know that there is something, there's lacking. So that's where I usually do the coaching. You could have done this. This is the better way. This question should have been asked. So instead of having a 6-minute phone call, it could be just within 4 minutes phone call.
Yeah, and we call those ministry calls, or it's one of those, because we want a 2 to 3 to 4 minute phone call. I'm just going to put that out there, because the shorter the phone call, the faster we can get on to the next call. Now, we will call, someone will call us and they want to tell us about their cat and how I had a hairball and then this happened. We will call those ministry calls. Not that we're doing ministry, but sometimes you have to listen and do active listening to get to where we're going. And we have some special Spidey skills with how we really help those customers out, but also where it doesn't bypass us for 45 minutes, where we can then get on to the next phone call and let them know, hey, we're going to call you back. It sounds like you're calling about your CPAP order that's you haven't been using, and you now want to know why the insurance company is not covering it because you've stopped using it. Let's figure out what that looks like, and maybe we can get an appointment with our respiratory therapist, and then exactly how to triage that phone call and teach the team to get them where, the customer's being taken care of, or at least they know what the next step in the process is, don't you? Now, April, tell me, so one of the things that really helps, you've now been in the United States twice. So you were working remotely, and this is so vitally important to bring our offsite team to the United States. How has that changed by you working both in the Philippines and the United States, coming here in very short trips to at least interact directly with our staff, interacting directly with our providers as well as our customers? How has that changed how we've been able to answer phone calls?
It was actually helpful because it's different when you're working remotely. When you're not working at a store, it's entirely different experience. But I would say that was helpful because when I was there, that's when I knew, the interactions that you'll have with the patients coming into the store, helping them personally, like being there in person. It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
However, the concerns are the same. Like when they do the phone calls, it is the same. When they come into the store, the concerns are still the same. It's just that I'd say you build more connections when you are in person.
Absolutely. Which is why, hey, at least next trip I get to come see you guys instead of you coming here. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to have a little podcast in the Philippines. Last question I'm going to ask you, CJ. If someone's looking to hire an offsite team member, what is one thing, I'm just going to ask you for one thing that they should look for when interviewing an offsite team member? What would be your one quality that you're looking for?
The strong work ethic count.
Absolutely. But what does that look like?
That's
Work ethic, what does that look like?
showing up to work is really important. Just show up. Punctuality. That's all for me.
Yeah. And we look for that too. And we have back end things that April and we talked about on last week's podcast, things that we know who's showing up for work. And it's one of those things. The nice thing our clients can be assured of, we're not going to just take someone off the street and then put them in your company. Almost all people that we have hired that will then place in another company have worked in our company for 3 months. So you're getting a well-trained team member. There are some people who don't show up for work, and guess what? We let them go if they don't have, I don't want to say a Filipino work ethic, but a offsite team work ethic, which is all about being humble, hungry, and smart. So they're ready to go after it so we can take care of other customers as well too, which is really what it's about. So April, here's your one question. What is your favorite part and what do you think the offsite team communications team does best for our customers?
They do care for our patients. And I think that's one of those things that when you have care, and we're also kind, our offsite team members are kind. They do not argue with our customers over the phone. So we're very understandable.
Yeah, yes, they do. And if anything, I'm the one asking phone calls to be shortened down on time because they want to care even more. So this is where we make a good team. I'm pulling it this way, and you guys, I need to take care of it this way. And then we have a few other communications team members. They figured out a really good way that makes me happy to have longer phone calls. We're like, but Eric, I sold 3 more products. Okay, that's fine. You guys can talk twice as long if you're going to sell more products, because they'll answer the phone call and then they'll upsell. Well, hey, I know you have a CPAP machine, but do you have a CPAP machine cleaner? That's going to make your life way easier. Oh, yeah, we can bring that out to you. And so this is one of those things. They're really, really good at what they do because we train them. And as we work with other companies, they'll come up, hey, can you have your team ask our customers these questions, or what about this? It's really, really helpful, and it blesses our business. It blesses our customers. And as CJ alluded to, it blesses your guys' families in the Philippines as well, doesn't it? Well, hey, CJ, thank you for at least popping in on our podcast this time and answering a few questions. Because, April and I, we're always talking about, the offsite team, what it is. It's nice to say, okay, this is who's leading our team. And if you were to hire a communications team member, CJ is your leader training your team member. And one of the nice things, what happens is, let's say you hire a communications team member and you have a problem. We're going to encourage you to talk to the communications team member first. But if not, what you do is you just schedule a meeting with CJ, and CJ will work on the issues that you might have and coach your team member. And it works really, really well. You can call CJ, you can video conference her, you can shoot her a text message. Our job is to make your job significantly easier so you get back to running a really profitable business. So if you guys are interested, go to offsiteteammember.com or talk to April, CJ, myself. We would love to help your DME respiratory. We just signed up a chiropractic company the other day. We are here to help you guys out. So until then, thanks for listening to the Offsite Team podcast.